Now, let's start by definition. Why there's always one constraint on your business. And I'll quickly tell you a quick analogy about this so it makes more sense. Imagine if you're in a gym, right, and you want to lift 100 pounds or 100 kilograms or whatever. And let's say your arms can support it and your shoulders can support it, right? But your chest can only support 50 pounds or 50 kilograms, whatever. So it's only that strong. No matter how much you improve and make your arms and shoulders stronger, you are not going to be able to lift more than 50 pounds or kilograms because that's the limit of your chest, as an example. Which means that you, as a human, you will be constrained by that, by how strong your chest is. And in this analogy, most entrepreneurs spend their time making their arms and making their biceps and making their shoulders stronger, right, in this analogy, instead of identifying the correct constraint and solving that. And that's why they don't scale, because they are making micro improvements on all of the areas of the business instead of obsessing about the one thing that stops them from getting to the next level. And again, of course, improving things all the time, even if it's 1%, compounds and it matters, but the majority of your time should be spent on the one thing that if you accomplish that, nothing else matters. And that's what we are going to be optimizing for today. Now, how to identify your constraint and implement the profit system. The first way that you can do this is to ask yourself this question. What is the one thing, one activity, one action that you do in your business that makes you the most money? Okay, I'll repeat it again. What is the one thing that you do in your business that makes you the most money? Now, the second question after that will be, why can't you do 10 to 100 times that? And the answer to that question is usually the constraint. I'll give an example. What is the one thing that I do that makes me the most money? Let's say it's sales calls. So if I do a sales call with entrepreneurs, I usually make tens of thousands of dollars if they join. So let's say my close rate is 33%, so 1 in 3 people buy, and let's say I'm selling a program for $50,000. Okay, so every 3 calls I make $50,000, for example, which means every sales call I take, on average, even if it doesn't end up joining, on average for every call, I make about $13,000, right? No, sorry, $16,000, 16,000 and something, right? 16, 17,000. So if that's true, for example, then the thing that I do that makes me the most money is taking sales calls and enrolling the clients. Now, the next question is, why can't I do 10 times more of that? And here is where the beauty of the constraint thinking comes to play. Because I can have multiple answers. And your job is to actually think a bit more deeply and identify the right answer so I can prioritize it, right? So let's say I can say, okay, so why can't I take 10 times more sales? Why can't I do 10 times more? Let's say I look into my calendar. Well, do I have more spots? If the answer is yes, then great. What am I doing to book sales calls? I'm posting YouTube videos. Okay, so if I make more and better YouTube videos, if that's where I'm booking my sales calls from, and I book 10 times more sales calls, if I can handle 10 times more sales calls, then I'll make 10 times more money on average. I hope this is making sense, right? No matter how much I improve my product, if that's not my constraint, I'm not going to grow unless I focus on this. So let's say I look at it and I say, well, I already am booked out, so I don't have any more spots for the sales calls. Okay, so now why can't I do 10 times more of that? Which is, might be I need to increase my price, or most of the time, I need to hire a closer. Or if I already have a closer or I have 2 closers, why can't I have 2 times more closers? And this is where I can double the capacity. And if I have the capacity and I don't have enough leads, right, then I need to focus on the content. I hope this is making sense. That's how you think about this. In the other way, it can be that you are thinking, what is the one thing that I do that makes me the most money? And in your case, it is helping people get results, right? Because you are fully growing by word of mouth. So when you help people get results, they all tell their friends and you grow. Okay, why can't you do 10 times more of that? Well, because you can't handle 10 times more clients. Okay, what's the solution? Work with fewer but better people and help them get results, increase prices, go from one-on-one to one-to-many, go to group coaching, hire coaches, etc., etc. So no matter what is the one thing that in your situation you do, you say, why can't I do 10 to 100 times more of that? Why 10 to 100? Because it gives you a nice scale of thinking. So let's say if you think, why can't I do 10 times more of this? You'll get one answer. If you think, why can't I do 100 times more of this? You might get a second answer. And that's where it gives a bit more deeper thinking, and you are going to be more likely to identify the core, the number one thing that everything else stems from. So in this example, if I say, why can't I do 10 times more calls? Maybe I can handle 10 times more calls, so I just need to advertise. But if I say, why can't I have 100 times more calls? Then not only I don't have enough traffic, right? But also I might not have the sales capacity. But what is more important? The traffic first. Because that's what I can do that and grow 10 times and then the 100 times. So this gives you like that nice, spectrum to think about this. Now, a lot of these trainings are available for free with all of the templates, AI tools, private feedback for you to be able to implement in your business. And guess what? It's absolutely free. So if you're interested, the link will be down below in the description and you can apply to join there.